young adults. You probably read a lot of articles in the newspaper about them, and sometimes it's not so positive. Hi, my name is Valerie, and this is Insight. And today it's about young adults, but more in a positive light. And we have 3 guests. Right now we have one that's here, and then you'll see the other ones later on in this segment. And her name is Darby, and she's going to talk about what she does in the community. Now keep in mind, all the guests that we have on is all locally in our community, and I was surprised. I was reading information about all the people that will be on the show, and I was like, man, you guys are doing all of this stuff. It's so impressive. So before we get started, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi. My name is Darby Jens. I'm 15 now, and I go to Choctaw, and I really like acting and voiceover. I actually lived out in LA for 6 months, and I did Florida Virtual School online, and that's how, I kept up with my schooling. And when we lived out in LA, I auditioned a lot, TV, movies, voiceover, and one of the biggest roles that I got was on a Disney Junior show, which is now award-winning, called Doc McStuffins, and I'm Melinda the Mermaid.
Wow, that's so cool. I bet a lot of people ask you, especially kids, probably ask you this question, like, how did you get that? Like, there's a lot of kids and people are like, I'm going to be a star, but they don't know where to start. They're just, I know a lot of times when I talk to kids, they're like, I'm going to make my fame through YouTube, even though the odds are very slim to none. But anyway, they're like, I'm going to put something on YouTube. But, I mean, how did you do it?
Hard work. Hard work. Going out to LA and just, expecting to be overnight is, it's just wasted energy because it's not overnight. And actually, my episode book came out of Melinda the Mermaid, and I read to kids now. I didn't think that becoming Melinda the Mermaid I would be able to do this, but, now I have the great opportunity to read to kids, and I absolutely love it. And I tell them that it wasn't overnight, I had to work hard on it. And I tell them that, if you work hard, because if you work hard, then it just makes the success so much sweeter. Right. And I stress that point. I also stress, getting good grades because I wouldn't be able to go out to LA unless my parents felt that I deserved it. And if I worked hard on my school, then that would translate to working hard in LA on my career.
I'm really glad that you mentioned about school because I think a lot of times there's certain career choices that I think a lot of kids want to make that they think will bypass schooling.
Yes.
One is being some professional athlete. They think that has nothing to do with school. Like, dude, if I'm a professional basketball player, who needs to learn how to read or who needs to take this, spelling test? Like, what's, you don't see Michael Jordan have to say a spelling like, I know how to spell cat, C-A-T, shoot, goal, have to do that. And then same thing with acting.
Yeah.
But I loved how you mentioned that actually you do need it. It's very, very important that you do stay in school and how it's important. So how do you think the skills, since you talk to kids, the skills from school actually translate into acting? How does that help?
Well, in school, you learn about culture, and you learn about people and how things work and stuff like that. And I'm playing people. I'm playing a 15-year-old girl being in school, and if I don't care about school, then I can't relate to my character. And also, it helps me relate to adults because this business is run by adults,
Right.
So, I talk and we talk about stuff. We talk about issues, problems and stuff like that. We talk about the business and, learning those skills that you learn in school, to think and to advanced, literature, and you think of kind of the scope of things, then that also helps relate into, working in conversation and working on how to, get connections.
Right.
Because you gotta be likable to get connections.
I love how you mentioned that. And it's true. Communication is obviously key, especially when it comes to, in that type of art, when it comes to like, acting and performing or anything like that.
Yes.
And I think it's true, especially when you talk about culture. I know in social studies classes, some of them, how they work, you have to even give presentations or be aware of other cultures, how to approach people.
Yeah.
And you do learn those skills in school and even just day to day in your, dealing with your peers and how to deal with them and how to deal with conflict and everything like that. So it's kind of cool that does help in in the acting.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was really cool how you did your voice changes and how many voices. So how did you find out you could do like different voices? Like, where did that come from?
was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm a crazy kid, and I just had this natural comedic timing, and so doing comedy and stuff, I loved SNL. Like Adam Sandler, all the old, like all the classic SNLs, and I just started experimenting. And when Melinda the Mermaid rolled around, I have a voiceover agent, CESD. They,
Okay.
yeah, the character breakdown, because it says, you know, what's the production, what's the show, what's the character like. It said like Glinda the Good Witch in Oz,
Right.
and I YouTube Glinda the Good Witch, and woohoo, we're in Oz. I'm Melinda the Mermaid. You know, you kind of gotta mimic the voices, and that's how I.
That's interesting. I
that's
bet
how
it
I
was when you
utilize it.
said you just kind of found out you had it. I bet that was an interesting discovery for your mom. So she's like probably coming and listening, and all of a sudden you're like, "Hello, how are you?" It's like, who is that person? But anyway, so you know, speaking of which, though, I actually want to hear a little bit about your character. I know you have your book here, so could you actually read an excerpt from that?
Yeah, of course.
Because I really want to hear that. And
Yeah. Melinda is actually, the premise of the show is that it's this girl, and her name is Doc McStuffins, and she can bring her toys to life with her magic stethoscope. And they have problems, so she diagnoses them like a doctor. And so I'm actually a wind-up water toy, and my winder-upper's stuck, so I can't swim.
Oh no!
Doc and Stuffy walk over to the other side of the pool. Then Doc brings the mermaid to life with her magic stethoscope. "Hello, diddly scrumptious," the mermaid says. "My name is Melinda." "I love to watch you swim," Lammy says shyly. "Very well," Melinda says. "Prepare to be amazed." Doc takes out a hoop out of her wagon and hands it to Surfer Girl. "Take this to the center of the pool so Melinda can jump through it."
Wow, that was amazing. I loved hearing your voice. I would want to sit here and listen to you read the whole thing, but we can't. We don't have time.
What?
But you do read to kids in the local area.
Yes.
So, but we're actually about to go on break, and we're going to actually bring another youth out here. And thank you, Darby, and you'll be joining in. We'll be talking to this young woman, and she'll be talking more about, she's more into writing and also like drawing and art like that. So I'm excited to hear about what she does.
Likewise.
So make sure that you come back and join us here on Insight.
Internet access plays a critical role in the education of all children. Yet, for financial reasons, children are not always able to access the internet. Hello, I'm Superintendent Mary Beth Jackson, and I want to make sure our families in Okaloosa County don't struggle to compete in the digital age. An exciting new initiative called Connect to Compete is making high-speed internet available and affordable. Help our students and our families connect to compete.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. Stop the texts. Stop the wrecks. Visit us at stoptextsstopwrecks.org.
Packers,
Vikings,
Red State, Blue State.
We come from different places.
Uptown.
But when we live united, we create real lasting change in the education, income, and health of our country. Real change won't happen without you. So give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Sign up at liveunited.org.
Hi, and we're back here on Insight. And we're talking, I'm going to be talking to 3 young women, and earlier in the first part, I was talking with Darby, and I thought it was so amazing. You know, she's gone to Hollywood, and she does voiceovers and stuff like that. So I enjoyed talking to you, and she also did show us a little bit of her awesome talent and reading an excerpt from a book that you can actually buy. Do you know what stores you can get it from, or?
All of them.
Just, oh, okay.
Yeah, just all of the retail stores. Like,
Okay, all of the retail stores. So go ahead and check it out. Or if you're like me who gets everything online, you can probably order it somewhere online. Okay. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about your book and what you do and when you talk to kids?
Yeah, I just want to say that whenever I talk to kids, you know, I always stress that you can accomplish any goal through hard work. Your goal can even be as big as Hollywood, and even while you're still living in a small beach town.
Excellent. I love that. And, because we do live in a small community, a lot of people think, oh, well, no one's going to think that we can get famous here or accomplish anything. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So we actually are also joined here with Mariella, and she's also in the arts, but different type of arts. So I'm going to just let you introduce yourselves and what you're doing.
Well, hello, my name is Mariella Torrey. I go to Northwest Florida State College, and I am a writer and artist. Those are my two passions. And as you see, they're over here right next to us.
Oh, excellent. That's really cool. Writing actually was never my forte, so I give you props on that one. I'm a math person, per se. I love math, and I also love acting, so those are my two things. But we'll talk about the writing a little bit. So what is your favorite thing to write about?
I would have to say, my favorite writing skill in general is poetry. I love writing poetry. I feel like when I get frustrated and I can't actually express how I'm feeling, I like to write it out. Freelance is my favorite as well. So I take real pride in doing that. And then when I just don't write, I actually do art as well. So I feel it takes off the pressure and the stress when I feel overwhelmed with things. So I feel like it takes a lot of agitation away from me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really awesome. So when did you find out? I asked her when she got started, and she just discovered it. So probably acting kind of nutty and maybe doing her little voices and discovered it. So how did you discover? How did you discover that? Hey, writing is my thing, or I'm really gifted at this.
I'd say with writing, I'd say my mom loves to write, so I started reading a lot too. I love to read. And then I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I? I like writing short stories, long stories, and writing is just like I said, it's just another way of talking. So I felt like I started doing that when I was around elementary school, and then it got more serious for me. I started doing it for my school, and then I just took it's just a big passion for me just to do it. And
I'm listening to what you're saying, and and how you guys became successful. And the thing is, it seemed like you guys, even though you're faced with a challenge, you're just like, I'm going to, go with this. I accept the challenge. I'm going to do it. And you're confident. And I think that makes a difference on being successful. And I like that when you read it, you're like, they could do it. Why can't I? So I thought that's pretty cool for someone who's young. Yeah. And also with kids, I think writing, I hear a lot of people who interview people who are just coming out of college, that writing is one of those things that seems to be getting a little worse, especially in our schools. I can't speak for the whole United States, but just what I'm seeing around me. So I think that's really excellent that you're doing that. And you said reading. So if someone wants to improve in writing, how would they do that?
I would say, in general, just write how you're feeling first. I feel like if somebody wanted to write or wants to get better at reading, I feel like reading something simple first, or just getting your head in the right area. Say if writing, I would tell them, just write a few things, see how you feel. How are you feeling right now? And then that's how you start getting bigger ideas of writing. And then you start making up your own stories just like that, and I think it's really amazing.
Well, with that, I think you've written something, correct?
Yes, I did.
So I want to hear what you've written for the show.
I did this actually for a scholarship for writing, and it was called What's Your Worth? And it was I did it actually for women too. So it started saying how's a $20 bill worth so much, but a penny worth so less? How can us humans tell what is beautiful, like an answer to a test? Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder, but what happens when they drop it? What's your worth then? How do we judge what's worth living for when someone else is dying to live it? People defining to us what and who we are when they don't even know your scars. When you stare at yourself, what do you see? Someone whose worth is to be loved, or someone whose worth is left to be weak? What's your worth when you're asked? Are you scared to be judged on your past? That question makes an infinity of answers, but is your answer stronger than the disease of cancer? Will it make you smile when you're being put down, or cry when no one is around? What is your worth?
Wow, that was deep.
Seriously. Think about my whole 15 years of living now. Goodness.
Man, I know, right? That's really deep. I love that, and I can, feel the passion, in your writing. So, is there any projects as far as writing that you're doing, like any books that you're hoping to do?
Yes, I actually started writing. It's actually about 50 pages right now over a little short story that I've been writing for a minute, and I actually fall in love with it. Even if I forget that I'm writing it, and I'm like, oh, I put it down for a week, and then I read it, and I'm like, oh wow, this is pretty interesting. They did this, and I'm like, oh, I did. That was so fun. But when I read, I do like reading. I like rereading what I wrote, and it's like, okay, well, if I feel like I like it, I like having my friends read it too. So if they feel like, oh, this is actually really good, and they want to know what's going to happen next, that makes me feel amazing. Be like, okay, someone actually likes to read what I have written, so it's amazing.
Oh, that's cool. Well, with the next thing that you like to do, I want to talk a little bit about your art. So during the break, we talked a little bit about it. So I noticed up here by the Insight logo. Can you explain that?
Yes, to the moon and back. Everybody's been talking about that quote, to the moon and back. And for my senior year project, we had to make a sculpture piece and about anything. It was a free one. So I was like, let me do this quote that everybody's been talking about. And it was just something that I actually really loved. When I first did it, I was like, wow, this is going to be really interesting, because it had to be a tile piece. So I was like, okay, let's see how I can work this into it. And then I did the rocket first, and I was like, oh, this is going to be really nice. So I would say out of all my pieces, I think I love this one. This is my favorite.
Well, that's amazing. I don't even know how you did. How long did it take you to do this project?
Well, for seniors and the art class that I was in, we'd only have probably about a week.
A week?
A week.
You did not do that a week.
About a week or a week and a half. And it was the hardest thing ever, because then you'd have to stay after school, you'd have to change rides and stuff, but it had to be done, and it was.
That is amazing. I don't even know how you would start in that. And so, you said you had that idea, but do you get like a visual in your head, like, okay, this is how I see it, or is it just how you go?
Like that. I always vision it first, and our teacher would always say, write it down. And that's the thing, because I can't always write something down with my art thing. I have to see it in my head, and then I'd have to just go with it. Because then when I write it, it doesn't look how I want it to be. But if you write it, you actually picture like, okay, this is what it's gonna look like, and I feel more comfortable with it sometimes too. So it was hard, but I mean, when after the finish of it, it changes your whole mind. Like, it's amazing. So
I love this, and I really love that you're here on the show, both of you, and it's really interesting to hear how you guys progressed and what your talents actually, because you just never know. And people who are watching, and I'm sure there's kids like, I don't know how to do anything or whatever, but everybody has a talent. Some people may not have discovered their talent. It could be as easy as knowing how to keep the peace in a household, or knowing how to talk to people, or even when you have conflicts with friends, you're just that person who knows how to keep the peace, or someone who's good with just listening. I mean, those are also gifts too, and there are careers and things out there that's perfect for that. So you just never know. It's just, I think it seemed like with you guys, you kind of figured like, oh, I'm kind of good with this, and then you just kept playing with it. You kept like, hey, what more can I do with it? So I think with that, that would help, I think, with our viewers who are watching. And with that, we're about to go on break, but that's not all. We have one more guest that will be on the show with us, and it's about science. So don't go anywhere. We're here on Insight.
Dudes, what would happen if this guy played a bully and this one played the new kid? Bullying is unpredictable, and depending on how you react, you never know what kind of result you'll get.
New kid should just calmly walk away, find an adult or teacher, and speak up.
Together, we can all stop bullying. Speak up.
Go to stopbullying.speakup.com to find out more.
This PSA brought to you in part by the Cox Southeast Region Diversity Council and Cox Communications.
Division I college baseball is coming to Pensacola's Community Maritime Park. The Cox Diamond Invitational, presented by Citgo, will feature the University of Florida Gators playing the Southern Miss Golden Eagles on March 4th and the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Troy University Trojans on March 25th. Tickets are only $11 and deck and group rates are available. Call 934-8444 for single game tickets or 434-2800 for groups. Get in the game and come watch Division I baseball at the Community Maritime Park.
Hi, and we're back on Insight, and I'm your host, Valerie. And we left off with Mariella, and she was talking about how she loves to write and how she's very talented. She wrote an excerpt that she wrote about, and it was really, really good, and it was very deep. And then also, and the last thing we left it off was her art. We also had other two arts. We didn't get a chance to talk about them. Can you briefly talk about the one that's behind me?
The one behind you is the abstract piece that I did in middle school, my 6th grade year, I'd say. And all I did was put like slabs of wood together. Actually I won in an art show, so I was pretty proud of it from like only being in 6th grade. So I was like, oh, this is really nice. So I'd say that piece right there made me actually feel like I wanted to be an artist.
Take that,
excellent.
Picasso.
Right.
But did you literally just slap wood together at the beginning?
Yeah. And then I colored it.
Well, that is natural.
But yeah.
And then what about the one behind you? I don't know if you remember the one that's behind you. So you don't have to flip all around.
Oh yeah, the one behind me, I made actually at Youth Village, and I wanted to do an eco-friendly kind of piece, so I did a shape of a bird and put newspaper on it, and then the background made me think of the sunset. So.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed listening to your beautiful poem as well as your art. And now, lastly, we have our last guest, a young adult, and this one we did the art, so this one's more in the science. And before we start, Trinity, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. I'm Trinity Hickson Wells, and I go to the STEM Academy, and I'm 11 years old in 6th grade. And what STEM actually stands for is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medical. And the only part that I have seen so far is science and mathematical. And all it is just advances in classes. It's nothing too serious. It's just you're doing a few grade levels above what grade you're actually in.
Oh, it's nothing, no biggie. You're just a few grade levels ahead. Yeah,
Yes. Q4.
That's impressive. I mean, being in that school, because I remember before that actually opened it up, it was all in the paper on how how they were gonna get kids into the school. So it's very hard. Actually, it's not that easy. But you're just like no biggie. But anyway, just going into that. So why did you decide that you wanted to go and be part of the STEM Academy?
Well, the first time I heard about the STEM Academy was at my church. They had come and they were taking students to do some projects at my church. And I was thinking about the project we were doing once I got home, and I said, Mom, that's really good stuff. And she actually said there was a school for it. And I said, oh, well then I want to go there. But it wasn't as easy as going to a public school or transferring to a public school, because I had to write an essay, I had to fill out forms, I had to buy a very expensive uniform, and there's just so many steps, but it was worth it.
Well, I guess they were trying to see too, see if you really want to do this. Probably why they had, the extra steps. So clearly you really wanted to do it. And I love how you approach your mom like, yeah, this is where I want to go. So you mentioned exactly what STEM stands for, and I'm sure all the students that's in there, they want to do something in that field when they grow up. So out of all that, what do you actually want to do?
Well, what I actually want to do whenever I get older is I want to be a biologist. I want to find the cure for things like the common cold, and I want to just make people feel better.
So you're going to work with, we talked about this during the break, so you want to work with like viruses and stuff like that. I mean, you're helping people, which is great, but you're going to deal with viruses and maybe diseases.
Well, yes, but I hope I don't release zombies all over the world.
Oh, good. That is very, very good that you don't want to do that. But I give you props that want to get into that field. I mean, all I know pretty much is from science fiction laboratory, and there's little vials of dangerous diseases and all over the world that if you touch it or breathe in it, that's it. But I think, but I think that's really impressive, especially the common cold. Even though you put people out of business, but that would be awesome because that is a very annoying thing to have. But I mean, to be so young to want to do something like that and be. So, is there any project that you're currently working on?
Well, there's no project that I was currently working on, but I just finished a project about bees and their types of hives. And I really liked that project because I actually got up and close with the bees, and I actually saw many fantastic things.
You were very close with the bees. All right, so you became one with the bees. So when you were up close to them, what did you observe? What did you notice?
Well, what I was observing was to make sure they were healthy, and if there were things that I could do, although it was unscientific, I would try to do, because I'm not happy to see things die. I'm not happy to see things get sick.
What does a healthy bee look like?
That is so sweet, but I just really got to know, how did you, when you observed they were sick, how did you know they were sick, for one?
Well, for one of the diseases that they could possibly have was if their wings got bent or crooked and they couldn't fly. And so that means that they couldn't go around and feed themselves or other people. That's a disease, and it kills them off very quickly. And that's really the only disease that happens here in Florida, but there are many other animals that can ruin a beehive. There's a moth, which will get into a beehive and lay eggs in the bee cells.
Right. Wow. That is so interesting. I didn't know that much about bees. I just knew I don't need to be stung by them. That's pretty far as I know about bees. That's really interesting. You really went that far in depth on observing them. And again, I give you props with why you want to get started, because apparently you don't want to see anything sick and die. It doesn't matter what any living thing. And I commend you for that, and all of you guys for being in here. Y'all are so interesting. I really wish. I don't know if you know this, everybody who's watching this, but they actually do this countdown thing for me to make sure that I don't go over. And I really want to continue so bad. I wish it was an hour long, but you guys are awesome and amazing, and just talking about your stories. And lastly, I wanted to mention too, I have these young women up here. If you are a person in high school and you want to be up here, maybe you have an interesting story, or you want to be a co-host, take my jab, be a co-host or be a guest, you can contact us on Facebook, or you can contact us through email. The information is provided. You can do facebook.com/insighttelevision.org, or go to our website, www.insighttelevision.org. And thank you so much, you guys, for being on the show. And thank you guys for watching here on Insight.